Okay, we are now going to talk about finding the mean for a group set of data. So we saw this when we did our classes and our frequency distributions. And so I'm going to just kind of walk us through this process and give us, I'm going to start by giving us the formula for this, and then we're going to kind of process and work our way through this as we're going, okay? So we're going to take a look. So first off, our formula okay. So what this is we're going to take the value, and so in this case, x and is okay. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to multiply our midpoint times our frequency, and then we're going to add all of that up, and then we're going to divide by the total frequency. So taking a look at number 5 on our work here, I'm going to go ahead and get our classes going here. Okay, so here's our class. Our frequency, 4, 15, 6, 14, 16, and 7. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do our midpoint, which is going to be our xi value. And remember that in order to find our midpoint, we take the lower class limit, we add the next lower class limit and divide by 2. This is going to be 5.5. This next one would be 11 plus 22 divided by 2, which is going to be 16.5. This one's going to be 27.5, 38.5, 49.5, and 60.5. Okay. Now, what we're going to need to do here is we are going to need our total frequency down here. So we're going to do 4 plus 15 plus 6 plus 14 plus 16 plus 7. It's going to be 30, 40, 55, 62. Okay. And then we're going to make one more column over here. And we're going to do xi times fi. So for this first one, this is going to be 5.5 times 4, which is 22. And then this is going to be 16.5 times 15, which is 247.5. And then 27.5 times 6, and we get 165. 38.5 times 14 is going to be 539. 49.5 times 16 is 792. And 60.5 times 7 is going to be 423.5. Okay. Now, the reason that we're using the midpoint for this is I need a value to represent this entire class. I don't want to pick the low end, and I don't want to pick the high end. If I pick the low end, then I've kind of underguessed all of my values. If I pick the high end, then I've kind of overguessed. So we want kind of that middle ground value, because that'll balance these, say, 16 values. I know some of them may be closer to 44. Some of them may be closer to 54. But using that 49.5, that gives me that middle ground, okay? So now I've done my xi, fi. So now I need to total that up here. And this gives me 2189. So then to find my mean, I take this total of 2189, and I'm going to divide it by 62, which is going to give me 35.3 when we were rounding. Okay. Now, it is plausible to do this with our calculator. Okay. So let's talk about how to do this. Now, if you're going to do this with a calculator, you are still going to have to find the midpoint. Okay, that's not going to change. You will still have to calculate that and be able to use it. Now, you will need to be careful because we are going to have to link two lists together in order to do this computation. And so you will need to make sure that if you go back to a non-grouped data set, that when you do that, you unlink the two things, okay? So in order to do this, I'm gonna bring our lovely calculator up here. We're gonna start by going into stat, the same place that we did before, and we're going to do edit, okay? So this is gonna bring over L1. Now, the way to clear your list is I'm gonna go up to where I'm highlighting here. I'm gonna press clear and enter, and that's going to clear my list. Now, in L1, I'm going to be putting my midpoints. So 5.5, 16.5, 27.5, 38.5, 49.5, and 60.5. Okay, so we've got all of those lovely midpoints in there. And then over here beside, I'm going to put the frequency. So I've got 4, 15, 6, 14, 16, and 7. And I'm just going to double check my data real quick and make sure that I did it all in there correctly. Okay, so now once you double checked it, you're going to do stat. You're going to go over to count. We're still picking 1 bar stats. Now here's where this is slightly different. L1 is your list, but we do have a frequency now, okay? So on this frequency one, we're gonna need to go down and put in L2. Now, for me, my L2 is down here on the number 2. It's in blue right here. So I'm gonna press my blue button and then that, and that's gonna put L2 in there. And then I'm gonna press enter enough times until it calculates for me. And then notice that our mean, which is the first value that comes up, is 35.3, which is the same response that we got here. Notice it does do that total of the X's. This is their XI, FI. It's that 2189 value, okay, which we got. Okay, so that's how we do one of the midpoint ones, okay? Now, we are going to look. So I'm going to slide past a few of these slides because this was an example that they were doing that was the same process, kind of going step by step. We're going to talk about a weighted mean. Now, we see weighted means in a couple of different aspects, okay, or in 2 different main styles. One would be your grade calculations. When certain things are, this is a certain percentage of your grade. It's not just all evenly done. Also, and more classically, is your collegiate GPA, where you get more points for an A in a class and less points for a B and a C and a D and an F, respectively, okay? So what we're gonna look at here is notice here, and they've done this kind of still all in an out, but notice that we have this W1, X1. That's the weight with the value, okay? So I'm gonna create it's a very similar formula, and it will be pretty close to the formula. I may have switched like an X and a W on this, but this formula is very, very similar to the one that we just got done with the frequency stuff, okay? So we're still going to be taking values and weights and multiplying them together and then totaling that up and then dividing by the total weight. So let's take a look at a couple of examples for this. So our formula, again, very, very similar. I've got a WIXI over a WI. So this is just, instead of being the frequency, it's now our weights, okay? So let's take a look at a couple of examples that we have. So we've got in Jacob's statistics class, the final grade is a weighted mean of the homework grade, 3 midterms, and then a final exam grade, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and make myself a little chart here. So it talked about that we have a homework grade, we have a midterm, and a midterm, and then we have a final exam, okay? Now then, it says the homework counts for 10%. Now we are gonna go ahead and convert that into its decimal format. So I'm gonna put this as my weight, which is the WI thing. So it's gonna be 10%. The midterm are 20% each. Okay, And then the final exam counts for 30%, okay? Now, we do know that we're gonna have to total all this up. So that's 1, 3, 5, 7, 10, or 1.00. Now then, let's talk about the grade, which is gonna be our XI portion. So it says he had a 70 on his homework. He had a 60, a 75, and an 85 on his midterm. So he got a little better as the semester went along. And then he has an 80 on his final. Okay. So now we're going to do our WI-XI multiplication. So we're going to have 0.10 times 70, which is going to give us 7. 0.20 times 60, which is 12. Okay, following the pattern. 0.20 times 75 is going to give me 15. 0.20 times 85 is going to give me 17. And 0.30 times 80 is going to give me 24. Now, when we add that up, we get a grand total of 75. Following our formula, we're going to have 75 divided by 1.00, which is going to be that Jacob has a 75 for his overall grade. Okay, so this is kind of style 1, which is where we're doing percentages for a grade and things like that. Now, the second styling of this that we see is our collegiate GPA stuff. Okay, so we can hash out what our collegiate GPAs are. So again, same formula though, not going to change. So it says Asha is trying to calculate her semester GPA. For each A, she gets 4 points. So I'll make my little key here. An A is 4 points. A B is 3 points. A C is 2 points. A D is 1 point. And an F is no points. Okay. So let's calculate this out. So we have in her bio class, the grade was a B, which is 3. And this was in her 4 hour, okay? Sorry, 4 hour, that goes down here. This is the hour count. Now, the hour is the weight, okay? Because we know those 4 hour classes take more time or weighted or ranked heavier than those less classes, okay? So then we have in English, which was a 3 hour class, she got a C, okay, which was worth 2 points. She got an A, which is worth 4 points in her 3 hour stats class. She took basket weaving. She made a D in that, so that's 1, and it was a 1 hour basket weaving class. And then she took history, and she made a B in that class, so that's a 3, and it was also a 3 hour class, okay? So with this being our weights, we're going to need total, so that's 7, 10, 14. So now we're going to do our WI-XI thing. So that's going to be 3 times 4 is 12. 2 times 3 is 6. 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 1 is 1. And 3 times 3 is 9. We're going to add that up. 24, 40. And then we've got 40 divided by 14 gives us a 2.86. And with GPAs, we do normally round to decimal places, okay? They may still preface to do a third decimal place or another value, but the general rule is 2,